back to another Wheel of Time video. This video has been a couple of weeks in the works. A little while back, I asked everyone in my Discord to help me compile a list of changes from the Wheel of Time books to the Wheel of Time TV show for Season 2. I did this for Season 1. Basically, I just took all the changes that I could think of, and I ranked them on a tier list. So that's what I've done in this video for Season 2. I've already recorded it. It's going to be 2 videos at least, because they're very, very long. A lot of changes, especially for Season 2. And yeah, I am mostly talking about the TV show here, but obviously I'm also going to be talking about the books, and some of the changes have implications for things later on, and so I talk about that. So the spoiler warning for Part 1 goes to, I believe, Winter's Heart, which is Book 9 of the Wheel of Time. So if you have read as far as Book 9 in the Wheel of Time book series, and obviously seen Seasons 1 and 2, you are good to go with that. If you have not, I don't know why you would watch this video, because I'm talking about the changes. But yeah, so there you go. That's a spoiler warning, and let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy. Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy.
Okay, so before I start ranking them, I'm going to explain the rankings. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. Amazing change that blew my mind. I really liked it. Good change, a change that didn't necessarily blow my mind, but I liked it. Reserving judgment, those are things that, based on, I don't know how I feel about them until I see where the story goes. Depending on what happens later, they can be good changes or bad changes. I don't know. The 3 in the middle, no difference positive, no difference neutral, no difference negative. These are things that I think kind of make no difference in the story, but some of them I like, some of them I kind of don't care, and some of them I don't like. At least I assume. I don't know. That's what I've put. I literally haven't really thought about my rankings here. And then this pink one here, understand but don't like. That's a change that I get why they did it. I still don't like it, but I get why it happened. That's what that one's going to be. And then, of course, hate this change. That's the rankings. Let's get into it. Okay, this first change. Basically, we got Adelus and Varen instead of Van Dien. I think this was a very, very smart change, actually. Van Dien and Adelus are, I don't even necessarily want to say they are B-list characters. They're more C-list characters. Varen is solidly B. She's A-list character in my heart. She's much more important than either Adelus or Van Dien. I think putting her in this role, I think it works really well. I like this change. So yeah, I'm going to put Varen instead of Van Dien up here as a good change. It didn't necessarily blow my mind, but I thought that was a very smart change. So yeah. Next on the list is Neve as a novice. I think, again, this is smart. Basically, I think one of the things that we needed to see was some time in the tower. We spend a bit of time in the tower in the Great Hunt with seeing the girls, how their studies work. But having them be separate, like Egwene and Nynaeve be separate, I think would probably involve a bit too much explanation as to why. I mean, the explanation in the book is just, she's super powerful, so let's jump her ahead. Even in the books, that explanation to me feels a bit, it feels a bit insufficient. You kind of let it go in the books, but it feels insufficient. I think it would feel really insufficient in the show, especially given how hampered Nynaeve is. It would be very weird for them to have bumped her up without any training, without her having shown any ability or skill. So this is another one that I think is a good change. Okay, the next thing on my list, no Tom. Tom is in the books. Tom is in the Great Hunt. He meets up with Rand in Cairhien, and he is in the Dragon Reborn. He's in Tar Valon. And he meets up with Matt, and he's a huge part of Matt's story. Now, Matt has a completely different story this season. They could have, I suppose, had Tom be the one to meet up with him in Tar Valon, but I have other thoughts on why that wasn't the case. So I will get to that at that point. But this is a change. It's definitely a change. I don't know how I feel. I gotta think about how I feel about this one. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna say right now, it obviously makes a difference to the story, but the story still got where it needed to go without him, which kind of hurts me, but I didn't miss him. That's why it's going in neutral. I know if my sister was making this tier list, my sister's only on book 4, granted, but if my sister was making this tier list, she would either say negative or she hates this change because she really, really likes Tom. I also like Tom, but I know that when I was watching the show, I didn't feel his absence. So for me, the fact that we got where we needed to go without him, I am okay with. I am okay with it. It didn't change where the story ended up. And so I feel neutral about it. I feel kind of bad about feeling neutral about it, but that's how I feel. This change. Rand and Lanfear, Rand and Seline actually having a relationship. This one blew my mind, as far as a change is concerned, because it raises the stakes so much. Like it in the books, he has kind of a crush on her, and then he realizes that, oh, she's a Forsaken, and then he feels kind of bad, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I. But like, there's no residual feelings there. Whereas there's gonna be residual feelings. There's gonna be him doubting himself and questioning himself. It deepens all of the self-doubt, all of the, it just deepens everything. In the same way, I feel that like one of the changes in season 1 was Rand and Egwene's relationship feeling way more solid and way more like an actual relationship than it does in the books. And I felt that was a good change because, again, it raises the stakes. This raises the stakes. It also makes so much more sense just seeing them on screen. Like, that's a grown man. I mean, he's still a baby compared to me, but that's a grown man and that's a grown woman. Like, if they like each other, it just feels more natural and more real. So I think this is an amazing change. I think it just works really well, and it feels way more natural, way more modern to the story. And again, raising the stakes. There's going to be questioning that Rand does later on, and part of it, like, again, I'm going to bring my sister up a lot because she's the person I've talked, like, you know, the non-reader I've actually talked to the most. Although, granted, she's read several of the books now. But one of the things she said at a certain point when Lanfear was talking to Rand, she's like, I don't think she's lying. Yeah, I think that's going to be a thing because they actually had feelings for each other. I think that it's going to be, yeah, she's evil, but she does care about him and she does love him, and we've seen it. This is a genius change. Okay, so this one here, basically, it's the way the person worded it was Adelaide is having one mode, basically just horny. I think that this is good. In the books, I can't tell the difference. Like, if you ask me which one is Adelus and which one is Vandene, I couldn't I don't know. I don't know. Because they have the same personality. One of them is bookish, and one of them is bookish. They're both bookish. Like, they're just... I couldn't tell them apart. This, A, gives them very distinct personalities, and B, it's funny. Like, we like her, we're endeared to her. It does definitely lend to the whole, like, she's a retired Aes Sedai, so now she just feels free to do whatever. And that works. And I think, again, liking her, finding her funny, and finding her amusing bodes well, story-wise, for things that may happen later. So I'm going to put this one here actually in no difference but positive. Because, again, my no difference here is I don't think it makes a difference to the story, especially as it's been told thus far. So it doesn't have any impact on the narrative, but I think it's a good change. I think it works. Okay, so the next one on the list is Aging Up Swan and Moraine. And I put this one because I couldn't quite know how to find a clip to show this. So this is a clip from them 20 years ago, looking pretty much the same as they are now. But I don't know. They've been aged up by about 20, 30, 40 years. Like, I can't do the math. I'm not good at math. But they've been aged up quite a bit. I think that this is, I don't know, it doesn't really impact the narrative, but I kind of like it. Just because there's this weird thing in the books where even though all the Aes Sedai can live for hundreds of years, all of the Aes Sedai that we are interacting with are relatively young. Not all of them, but the majority of the ones that we are interacting with are relatively young. I mean, they're still relatively young as far as Aes Sedai go, but I don't know. I think it works. I think it's also incredibly understandable. We are not having to do weird de-aging things and whatnot. We're just saying, yeah, they're older and it's cool and good. So once again, I'm going to put this in no difference positive. I don't think it changes the narrative at all, but I like it. Leandrin has a son. Speaking of changes that blew my mind, I love this. Honestly, one of the things that I feel like the books do not explore nearly enough is the consequences of living significantly longer than the average population. And I think it gets glazed over to a point that it impacts the way people feel about and judge the Aes Sedai. I think I've talked about this before, but there's this moment, this will be a spoiler, I guess, for later on. Okay, there's a moment where the Black Tower is founded, and the books talk about how, there are wives and children running around there. And while I, obviously cannot see into Robert Jordan's mind, the feeling I got from that, especially the first time I read it, was that we were meant to be comparing that to the White Tower and seeing how grounded the Black Tower is and how they still have their feet, they have 1 foot planted in the real world and they're not isolated. They're still interacting with regular people, and see, that's good. That's a good thing. And I know on subsequent rereads, I'd be like, but I think that's a comparison that people are going to make, but it's not fair. It is a not fair comparison because the Aes Sedai, the female Aes Sedai, have been living this life where they outlive all of their loved ones for millennia. The male Aes Sedai are just finding that, or the male Ashaman, I should say, are just discovering that. And I think over time, you are going to find the same thing happening to the male channelers, where they are going to pull away. Now, they might not pull away as much because they will have another community that they can interact with, but that, is in the same boat as them. But it's just a case of, I feel like that's a natural thing to happen. You don't see it so much with the Aiel, I suppose. But I also don't understand how it doesn't happen with the Aiel, that there's a group of people who outlive their husbands, outlive their wives, I'm assuming queerness, outlive their children on a regular basis, at a certain point starting to want to pull back because it's going to hurt. And you see that with her. And I love, this is like a bit of a tangent because it's not just talking about Leandrin here. I'm just talking about showing the consequences of this gift that they've been given, showing the downsides of it. I also think this is brilliant because it adds more dimension to Leandrin. And I mean, we've got Kate Fleetwood. You got to make use of the resources you have. And when you have an amazing actress like this, you have to make use of her. But it's also like the depth, the her not being a mustache twirling villain like she is in the books. Again, I blew my mind. So yeah, absolutely loved this change. Actually, I think I like it more than the, can I move it? Can I put that over there? How about I have to do it this way? Yes, that's the way. I think that I like it more than Rand and Lanfear, just because I think it has more tendrils. I mean, Rand and Lanfear also have a lot of tendrils. I like them both. So we spend a lot of time with Alana in the both season 1 and season 2. And in season 2, we actually see her with her family. Like, we spend a significant amount of time with her. And this one, I've talked about this a bit before. I think this change, I put it already on my reserving judgment list because, okay, I know I'm not alone in this. I really like Show Alana. Like, I love Show Alana. She is awesome. And again, this is, we're seeing a young Alana still having an attachment to her family. This is in contrast to Leandrin, who has, obviously, Leandrin seemed to have a horrible family just regardless, but has been hurt by outgrowing her family. Alana has not experienced that yet. Alana has not yet experienced loss, the loss that comes with being an Aes Sedai. I'm saying things in a loose way because people who read the books, if you know, you know. But the other thing that is different, I know I'm not alone in this. I I love show Alana. I do not like book Alana. Like, book Alana, I actually don't care about her, and then suddenly I hate her. That's my impression of book Alana. I think this change, if it goes where I think the story is going to go, I don't know. I'm reserving judgment on it. If it goes where I think it's going to go, then this is going to be an excellent change. If it doesn't go there, then I am going to feel like I was robbed of scenes that could have had more relevance. So I am reserving judgment, but I have a feeling it's going to pay off. So yeah, with Alana, I am putting it on my reserving judgment ranking here, but I do think it's going to pay off and pay off well, especially if we get those seasons. If we don't get those seasons, then it won't. But if we do, it'll hit harder because of these changes. Okay, so we got Elias, and Elias in this season took the place of Huron. That particular change, I kind of would have guessed. I don't know that I actually thought about it, but Huron is a character that he kind of only shows up for a little bit, and he's really cool when he shows up, but yeah, we don't need him. We don't need him. So having Elias take his place, plus, as I think I said in a previous video, in the books, Huron literally gets replaced by a wolf brother. So having him replaced by a wolf brother in the show is pretty much the same thing. But having Elias come in second season and replacing Huron, this is a change. I think it made sense. It made sense. Season 1, Perrin, I do think he got sidelined because of the dragon mystery. They were trying to hide who the dragon was, and if they had explained Perrin's whole deal, it would have been very clear that Perrin wasn't a dragon, so it would have taken one person off the board. So I think that's why Perrin's story got sort of pushed to season 2. I will say, of all of the character stories thus far, Perrin's is the one I feel the most lacking. And I'm using a very strong word. I probably shouldn't use that word. It's the one that I miss the books the most from. I don't think the show's doing it badly, and I do wonder if that is just my limitations in the way that I read Perrin's story. There's so much wonderful poetry in his wolf vision that is not really possible in the show. The way, the visual medium, it's not really possible to have the poetry of it. So I do know that. I feel like it's very, very truncated. So yeah, as far as Huron coming in and replacing, Elias coming in and second season and replacing Huron, I think those were good changes. I'm not like super hyped about them. Like they're not like, woo, that was a good change. So it's not on my amazing change, but it just, yeah, that made sense. Okay, so next on the list is Avanda instead of Gaul. This change, okay, I'm going to just, on the record, I like Gaul. I think Gaul is great. I hope we get Gaul. I still think we could get Gaul, especially with what I think is going to be happening in season 3. I think what this change is, Avanda is a more important character than Gaul. She just is. I don't think anybody who's read the books will deny that. So introducing her earlier than Gaul, I think that makes perfect sense. I also think the show was trying to do something very specific, and again, I'm just realizing, okay, where the spoilers are going to go, very specific with the 3 romantic interests of Rand. And one of the things I think they were trying to do was introduce them outside of Rand, so that we see them in their own context and we see them fully as full humans, 3-dimensional characters, before we start seeing them as, oh yeah, that's Rand's girlfriend, that's Rand's girlfriend, that's, there's not going to be anybody talking about these characters as which one is best girl, because we're going to know them specifically. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe that wasn't their intention, but that's the impact that I'm getting from the fact that we had, Avanda introduced through Perrin, Min spent most of her time with Matt, and Elaine spent most of her time with Egwene and Nynaeve. So we're not going to think of them as these are the 3 Rand girls. So I think this is a good change. It just makes sense to me. And again, even if I'm wrong about that motivation of wanting to introduce all the characters outside of Rand, Avanda is way more important than Gaul. Like, we need her. We need to know her way more than we need to know Gaul. So, yeah. Damodred family drama! I loved this change. This is one of those things that, I don't know that I would have noticed this the first time. I'm pretty sure I didn't notice it the first time. But on subsequent rereads, the thing that I kept thinking was, Moraine is related to everybody. Why are we not exploring? Like, there must be so much intense drama. If she lived in our world, the Domadred family would be the Kardashians. They would be. They have like a fallen uncle who like started a war that like resulted in thousands, possibly tens of thousands of deaths. And like the city of Kyrian is still recovering from what her uncle did, but they're still like a big noble house. Like, it's just, exploring this felt so like, yes, this is what I felt. You start to feel like it's missing when you realize, when you put two and two together with, okay, so she's related to the person who started the war. She's related to the Queen of Andor. She's related to the Dragon Reborn. Like, she's related to everybody. And yes, she would be the center of drama. And so I love this change. I love it. I absolutely love this change. Also, this is, I'm ascribing other motivations. I'm sure the writers are thinking widely in this, but there's also just the practicality of, you have Rosamund Pike in your show. You're going to have to put her front and center, like at a certain point. And books 2, especially book 2, which is where most of the story was taken from, she's in the background. So give her a reason to be in the front. Absolutely do it. Do not waste Rosamund Pike. Okay, the Dark Friends social, as told basically from the point of view of a child. This to me was genius. The Dark Friends social, book 2, it's the prologue to book 2, and it's told through the perspective of a man called Bors. And he is basically in his mind looking around and describing all of the people that he sees. How would you do that? This to me is just such a perfect way of doing it. Putting a child under the table to look at the clothing of everybody at the table. It's an excellent interpretation of that scene. We aren't getting Bors, and Bors is a character that comes up later, so we haven't seen him yet. Although, I mean, maybe we did. Maybe we did, because like there's some clothes there that could be Bors. But to me, this was genius. I just thought this was a really great change. I kind of want to put it on amazing change. Okay. I'm going to put it there because I remember thinking, like, when this happened, oh, this is such an excellent way to give the same feeling of, I am going to take note of all of the clothes that everybody is wearing and interpret what I see about that. Granted, the little girl isn't doing that, but we as viewers definitely were. So the little girl's view put us in the mind of what Bors was doing, of just trying to, that's an Aes Sedai, that's a Shinar, and that's a blah, blah, blah. That's what he was doing. So she put us in that perspective. So I do think it's an amazing change. It's definitely going to end up, like, I'm going to end up keep pushing it to the back of amazing changes if I have any more that go on there, because while it's an amazing change, I don't feel like it has a huge impact on the story. It was just, that was such a smart way to interpret a scene that would not be translatable to screen in a way that would be interesting. The Elaine introduction. Now, Elaine is introduced in the book. She's in book 1. And she wasn't at all in season 1, so she was introduced in season 2. This is a change. It's a change that I think completely understandable. In book 1, she is in one scene in a city, in a palace in a city. Now, just practical considerations, you would have had to either make a city or make a palace that costs a lot of money and hire an actress for one scene in a show. I understand why they didn't do that. So just practical purposes, delaying her until later, delaying having to make and create an entire city, Camelin, to me, that makes perfect sense. I understand completely why that happened. It was good. I think her introduction here, it served the same purpose. We're getting to know her personality, become, like, in the same way in that short scene in book 1, that you definitely come to like Elaine. This scene does the same. I definitely liked Elaine after her introduction and all of her interactions with Egwene and Nynaeve. I think she was great. I don't. Okay, I'm trying to debate. I'm looking over at my tier list. Sorry, it's over on my other monitor over there. Where I want to put this on my tier list. Okay, I am debating between good and amazing for this one. Okay, this is where my debate lies. I think it is just change-wise. I think it's a good change. A change I understand that I think it's good. The reason I kind of want to put it in amazing is because the pitch perfect actress that they found to play Elaine. Like, and don't tell me if you've read the books, if you didn't see Kira Coveney and go, oh, she's Elaine. Perfect. Like, she's exactly right. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put her in amazing because of that. As far as changes go, it's a good change, but it hit so right. Okay, this one I am calling on my list Matt's whole arc. Now, those of us who've been following the show for ages, we know the deal. Matt's story had to change because the actor who was playing Matt in season 1 left the show even before the season was finished filming, so they had him basically not present for the final 2 episodes of the season. We had to do something different. They were basically handed lemons. I think they made the perfect lemonade out of what they got. Like, Matt's arc in this season, I actually think is one of the most satisfying. Like, it actually has a full arc. Rand has a full arc. Nynaeve's arc is on the way up somewhere. Of course, Egwene had an arc, but like Nynaeve's arc, I think, is going somewhere. Matt's, I think, felt the most satisfying because he starts off here, like feeling so incredibly low, feeling like, you know, with Leandrin basically poking all of his insecurities. You suck, you're awful, you have no value, you have no worth. And then he ends up realizing that he's a hero of the Horn. And again, I'm going to bring my sister up because I know at this moment she had tears in her eyes. And it is fascinating watching her as she goes through the books because she has a completely different perspective on Matt in the books because of the show. She has so much sympathy for him because of watching him go through this arc. Now, Matt is a beloved character. Everybody who reads the books, and usually most of people who read the books, end up loving him. But very few people I know read Matt sympathetically. And the show definitely makes you interpret him in a sympathetic way. So I'm going to put this one in amazing change. Again, above that. I'm going to put it above Damodred, above Elaine. Yeah, that's where I'm going to put that. Especially because it was a forced change. Like, it was not something that they had to do. It's one of the things, like, the limitations of the medium, the limitations of the amount of episodes and whatnot are frustrating sometimes as somebody who, you know, has basically seen the whole world laid out in books, but it also forces creativity in a way that I think is really, really cool. And Matt's story is one of those where it's just like, oh, they were basically forced into this box where they had to do something, and they made such, like, the way that they got out of it, I think worked. It's genius. I just think that's such a good change. Min's story. Now, again, I could be wrong about this, but I do think that part of the reasoning for introducing her and having her be with Matt and seeing her, like, even this thing with Ishii, outside of Rand, is part of, like, getting us to understand her. Min especially needs this, like, given where her story ends up. Of all of Rand's girls, Min needs this the most. I personally, like, just myself personally, found this particular part of her story where she is trying to get rid of her powers, it felt like vindication for me, because I've always felt that Min's powers kind of suck. Like, they're definitely powers, they're definitely supernatural, she has an ability that other people don't have, but they don't give her any advantage. Like, she can see something that's going to happen, but the only way that being able to see something that's going to happen is going to help is if you can prevent it. And she can't. Like, she can see book 4, like, see that something horrible is going to happen in the tower. She literally can't do anything to stop it. That doesn't help anything. So, and, being able to see good things would be nice, but I know for myself the things that would live with me, I would dream about, I would carry on my shoulders all the time, would be all the horrors that I saw that I couldn't stop or prevent. And so this, I just felt like really vindicated of like, yes, if I was Min, I would want to get rid of that too. That power sucks. I have no idea what to do with this power. Like, I literally do not know how you would leverage this power into something good. In the real world, maybe I could use it to invest in things and get rich. Like, but in the world of the Wheel of Time, I have no idea how she leverages this power to anything good. So this makes perfect sense. Again, same as with Matt, I do think this sympathy is a really good in with a character. Like with Adelus, her just being horny Adelus, it's a humor is also a good into a character. Feeling sympathy for a character is another way to make us love people. And I think this works really, really well. I'm going to put this one in a good change. It didn't blow my mind, aside from feeling really vindicated of, yes, people other than me think her power sucks. And again, I don't mean like her power sucks as it's not powerful. It's just, it sucks as in it would suck to have that power. All right, next on my list is no sky battle. In both books 1 and 2, Rand ends up fighting a battle in the sky. In book 2, it's like projected across the sky as like some sort of hologram that everybody everywhere can see. Even my brain cannot conceive of that. I've talked about this so many times. I'm not visual, so when that happened in the books, I didn't visualize it. When the show was announced, I remember trying to visualize it and thinking, there's no way. Like, there's no way to do that won't look dumb, like won't look really, really dumb. So I would have bet money on this before the season started, and it happened. So this is not like a mind-blowing change. It's just, to me, yeah, that's common sense. I still, like, this dragon, this fire dragon wrapping around the tower, I actually should ask my sister this. I never asked her this. She's read the books now, though. Not all of them. She's still very early on. But I bet for non-book readers, this felt over the top. Having a fire dragon wrap around a tower probably felt really over the top. And then if they ever were to read the books and be like, oh, whoa, no, this was restrained, is what they would probably think after this. So, yeah, not particularly mind-blowing, but I think a good change that makes perfect sense. Holograms, I don't know that Robert Jordan was thinking holograms, but whatever. Images of Rand fighting Ishii in the sky would have been so cheesy. I literally cannot imagine how they would do it in a way that would work. I know there are people who miss the sky battle, and I understand it. I understand being attached to something over the top, but I would just ask you to try and imagine how that would look to people who haven't read the books and think like that would be a moment for them to go, oh, what the fuck? All right, the next one. There's also no Kalendor, no Stone of Tear. Now, I have a theory on this that I am not, I cannot take credit for. This theory comes from Bree. Bree is an author. She's written lots of books, best-selling author, or one half of the best-selling author duo, Kit Rosha, I should say. And so she pointed this out. The Dragon Reborn is the third book in the series. When Robert Jordan wrote this book, he thought the book was going to be 6 books. So this, in his mind, was the midpoint of the story. And then, like, at a certain point, he and his editor were like, no, this is not going to be 6 books. Just keep going. But this does feel like a midpoint moment. So while there is no Kalendor and no Stone of Tear in the show yet, I do think there is room for it to come later. So that, to me, feels like a reserving judgment thing. I do think, I don't know that we necessarily need a moment like Kalendor, because Kalendor in the books is the moment that, like, that's the thing that makes everybody in the Westlands go, oh yeah, he's the Dragon Reborn. And in the show, we had the dragon around the tower. So we don't really need a Kalendor, like, pulling the sword from the stone moment, because we've done an equivalent of that. But there was a lot of stuff that happened in the Stone of Tear that were seminal and, again, feel like a midpoint. So I'm going to put this one, I'm going to put it in reserving judgment. I don't know that it makes a difference. I'm putting it there because I think it's going to come. I will have to actually come back to this later if it never comes and see how I feel about it. Because right now, again, this is very personal. I'm a very emotional person. I am not missing it because I have a suspicion it's going to come later. Nynaeve's test. I have talked about this before. In the books, Nynaeve has 3 tests in book 2. The first test she fights, I can't remember if she fights Agenor or Balthamel, but she fights one of them. Second test, she's back in the Two Rivers. And the third test, she is a future queen of Malkier and married to Lan. So in the books, test 1 feels so generic to me. Like, to the point that I fixed it in my head until very, very recently, like my last reread of book 1, which I did when my sister read it. At the end of Eye of the World, either Agenor or Balthamel, I think it's Balthamel, grabs her and basically does something really, really cruel to her. I think it's Balthamel at the end of Eye of the World, basically causes her a lot of pain. And then in book 2, she's fighting one of the Forsaken, and it's Agenor, not Balthamel. Whereas in my brain, the Forsaken she was fighting was Balthamel, because that made sense. It was personal to Nynaeve that she was fighting the Forsaken that had hurt her. But in the books, it's just like just a scary Forsaken that she happened to see, but not the one that hurt her. And I don't know why that happened. This particular, I'm only showing clips of it here, but that first test of showing the death of her family, which is okay, her family died in the books, but not necessarily in a horrifying way, but showing a horror from her childhood. Again, part of what a show has to do, because it has a much more limited space, is make everything do as many things as possible. So this test is not just only to show Nynaeve is ready and strong and able to do this, but it has to teach us about who Nynaeve is. So this is giving us an insight into her past. It felt really, really personal. In the books, her test 2 is back in the Two Rivers as wisdom and feeling like she abandoned them. In the show, that's pretty much an equivalent. I think that those two are the ones that work. And in the books, her second test is the only one of the 3 that actually works for me. Because test 3, it's really, really abbreviated, really, really truncated, because she runs away from it really quickly. And it felt really like, what, okay, I'm just going to say the thing that's in my mind. It felt like what a man thinks a woman fantasizes about, which is I want to be queen, whatever. I want to be a princess. It didn't feel like at all like anything that was specific to Nynaeve. Why would Nynaeve care about being queen of Malkier? She cares about Lan, not Malkier. Plus, at that point, she barely, she'd spent enough time with him, but having the show that, yeah, she has her initial love for Lan, but that it was a long marriage. She was married to him in the show. It lands so much harder. The show gave me trauma from watching Nynaeve's test. Nynaeve's test blew my fucking mind. Oh, where did it go? It blew my mind. So I'm going to put that one, let's see, I'm going to put it at just under Leandrin's son. I have to do it this way because of the way this works. Okay, that's where that goes. It blew my mind. This, to me, interesting world building change. Basically, this change is that there are shrines to the Forsaken just out in the world. People have built, apparently, temples to the Forsaken. Now, I don't know, this is obviously a very old one, so this could be a ruin from literally the time of the breaking. But it just, to me, this is not a significant change. It doesn't really change anything in the narrative of the story. It's just a cool world building change that makes me imagine, there's these underground cults of dark friends that maybe meet at places like that. I don't know. It opened up the world in a way that I felt was kind of cool. It makes no difference. It's just a thing that happens. But I kind of like it. It made me imagine things in the world. And I like things that make me go, ooh, the world feels a bit more real and solid. And I like that. All right. Next on the list is she blackmailing Suroth? Basically, is she working together with Suroth just in general? That, I think, made sense as far as storytelling is concerned. You basically consolidated and gave a reason for him to be there, to have, especially this actor on screen, Ferris on screen as much as possible. That man is dripping charisma, so yes. But basically, him having something on Suroth that he's blackmailing her for, for me, personally, I'm mildly curious about it, but I'm gonna have to say that I kind of don't care. I kind of don't care. It might, I don't know, maybe I should put on reserving judgment, because it might turn out to be interesting. It might pay off later. But right now, like, no, because I'm not reserving judgment. Later on, I might end up changing it to good or bad when it pays off. But right now, I don't think about it. So for me, that's one of those changes. It's just like, okay, that was cool, I guess. But it like went in one ear and out the other. The Horn of Valer. Now, to be quite frank, I don't know that there's much change to the myth or the way the story of the Horn of Valer is told. But for me, what felt changed was you didn't really, people who watch the show, I don't think understand what the Horn of Valer is, and it didn't necessarily feel like it was super important until the end. Whereas literally book 2 is called The Great Hunt. Book 2 is everybody trying to get this horn, and season 2 is, it's a bunch of other stuff happening, and then, oh, cool, the horn came into play at the end. Like, that's the feeling of just like, oh, this thing that they mentioned at the beginning, and here it is at the end, and oh, it's super cool. So, yeah, I kind of understand why it happened. Like, this is literally the reason why that particular ranking ended up on this list when I was going through the things that the things on the list of changes. It's like, this is what, I kind of understand why it happened, because you don't have as much time in a show to spend with the characters, so they focused way more time on character. I understand it, and yet I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not a huge thing. It's not massive. The horn is really, really cool. It's not as significant as it could be, but it's really cool, and it's definitely part of Matt's story. But I don't know. When I say I don't like it, I just wish that there had been a way to make what the horn was more understandable for viewers, the significance of the horn understandable for viewers, and to make it more of a through line that you felt the importance of. Like, most people watching didn't even quite understand how they got the horn at the end in the first place, because it's just this offhand line that Lanfear, like a Kyrian woman, just gave it to us, which, okay, like it's not a thing where our heroes were seeking it out and found it. It's our heroes were seeking it out, and then a bunch of other shit happened, and it ended up with so-and-so, and then, oh, the Lanfear handy, she got it to us. Like, it's just so haphazard at the end that it doesn't feel like a through line. And I kind of wish it had been more of a through line. That's just me, though. Okay, I'm calling this one The Rules of the Idam. Okay, so, in the books, the Idam can control women who can channel, basically, and the way the Seanchan have it worked is women who are born with the sparks are the ones that are detected, and they're the ones that are basically forced to wear the collar and become Damane. The women who control them, the Soldam, are women who can be taught to channel. They have the ability, but it's dormant until they are taught. In the show, the women who are Damane are strong channelers, and the Soldam are weak channelers. So, this is, again, another one that made me go, I have to put why I understand this. I understand why this change was made, because that is so simple. It is very easy for anybody watching the show to understand. You don't have to go into the details of, no, some people, it's dormant, and then once you coax it out of them, then blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do any of that. I understand it, but I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because if I was a Seanchan, having weak channelers versus strong channelers, this would not break my brain. It wouldn't undermine the foundation of my society. What it might do is lower the status of a Soldam. So there would be like people who can't channel, Soldam, and then way down here is Damane. But Soldam are not dangerous, because even if they learn how to channel, they're not able to do anything. They're so weak in the power, I don't have to be scared of them. Whereas in the books, women who have the power, who can be taught, once they are taught, they're the same as women who can channel. They're exactly the same. So having, like, basically you having people who can channel, controlling people who can channel, and treating these people who can channel as if they're different when they're actually the same. That would break my world. That undermines the entire foundation of the Shanchan society. So, yeah, I understand why this was made. This change was made because it does simplify things, but it doesn't ruin the Shanchan society is fucked anyway. But it doesn't destroy it in the way that the IDOM rules in the books do. So this is on my understand but don't like, and I'm putting it above the Horn of Valer there. Yeah. All right. So that was my tier list, and I'm realizing, crap, I've been recording now for 2.5 hours. Holy shit. This is probably going to end up being at least two videos. But let me know your thoughts on this. How would you place things? There are a couple of things that I thought of actually as I was recording that didn't end up on the tier list. Like, there's no Drakkar and no Darkhounds and no Greymen and stuff like that. Where would you put those on the list? And what other things do you think I missed? And where do you disagree with me? Where do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my content and you want to support me, I do have a Patreon that is also linked in the description below. As always, to my patrons, thank you so, so much. This would not be possible without you, so thank you. And with that, I am going to end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.